Here's one towards the goal. That's going to be gloved by Travis Ridgen.
Well, this is more like it.
This is Slangin' the Biscuit. Here's Travis Ridgen and Dave Wheeler.
Ladies and gentlemen, lads and ladies, welcome back to Sling the Biscuit as a part of our summer interview series. Today's guest played over 250 National League games in Calgary, Florida, Minnesota, New York, etc. He is the only man to retire from the NHL with an active suspension. We'll get to that in a moment. I'm very excited to pick his brain on that. He is the pride of the capital of Alberta in Edmonton, one of the faces, probably the best goalie analyst on TSN the past decade. Welcome to the show, Jamie Mclennan.
Thanks for having me. It's awesome to be here. I always catch your guys' shorts online and stuff, so I appreciate you finding time. I know scheduling, it was a little bit greasy to make it happen, but appreciate you making it happen.
Well, listen, are we comfortable enough now? We had a 5-minute preamble before we started recording. Am I okay to call you Noodles?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, it's weird. I am coming 54 years old, and my son's 7 and my daughter's 12, and they're like, why did they call you Noodles? And I'm like, all right, it's better than, I played with guys where we had a nickname for a guy like Ugly Face, and you're like, oh, I'd much rather have Noodles or something like that than Ugly Face or, Ass Face, because I've literally played with guys who were Ugly Face or Ass Face, and you don't want that. So I'll take Noodles anytime.
Well, Noodles, let me start by saying that if I had a nickel for every time a retired hockey player came to me and said, hey, I'm done playing, I want to do broadcasting, how do I do that? I'd be a very rich man. Now, in saying that, you're part of a very upper percentile of guys that, number one, made the National League, played the amount of games that you did, but be able to make the jump, and not just make the jump, but make it seamlessly and have the tenure that you've had with TSN and be the go-to guy, in my opinion, as far as when it comes to goaltending and the game overall. I got to congratulate you, man, because to do what you did, because most guys will be like, well, I'll go try and do color for a junior game in my hometown and work their way up. But you jumped quick, man, and it was seamless, so I applaud you for that. It was really, really impressive.
Well, I appreciate it. And, it's like anything. You got to work at it. When I first got offered, I retired and thought I was going to be in the coaching side. And Daryl Sutter, who's been so good to me throughout my career. I'm close with the whole Sutter family pretty much. I either played or worked with 6 of the 7. And even Gary, I know the 7th. So, but Daryl gave me an opportunity when I retired to kind of learn the other side of it. We call it the dark side, and did that for 3 years in player development and then coaching and all of that. And the day I got fired, they were going to reassign me in the organization. They wanted me to go back into player development, and I got an email from the evil quizmaster at TSN. And just, said, would you be interested in doing broadcasting? So that was 14 years ago. And I went out to Toronto that weekend. I didn't think I was particularly good, but I think they saw something that they, could work with. It's like anything, you need reps, right? Mm-hmm. So they were starting TSN radio. So I said to them, at the time I was single, I said, I'll come out. I just need, I need to work at this. So they put me on radio, they put me on TV, they started working with you. It's like anything, you need coaching. But, it's been, I had a 17-year pro career, up and down and all that type of stuff. This is year 14 on the broadcasting side. So I'm enjoying it, but like you guys, like anything, I'm sure there's great days and bad days when it comes to doing broadcasting.
Well, and you nailed it on the head there. And I'm curious to know, when you talk about that coaching a little bit, were you as comfortable in that role seeing the future that you thought you had in comparison to when you started on broadcasting? And I want you to kind of draw parallels and comparisons between the two.
Okay, so coaching, it was weird for me because it was such a weird transition. Like, I'm not lying, these are my best friends. It's Iginla, it's Strudwick, or not Strudwick, it's Iginla, Kiprusoff, Robin Regier, Rhett Warner, guys like that I was drinking with them last week, you know what I mean? And all of a sudden now you're on the other side and you kind of got to draw a line in the sand. So coaching was tough that way. And I've got a lot of friends now that are retiring and trying to figure out their second life after retirement. And I always tell them, like, coaching felt like being a parent. Now that I am a parent, I really feel like that's what coaching's like. You can have the greatest day as a coach. You can prepare your players, you can do everything. and they go out and get just like they lose 7-1 and nothing works. You know, the power play, the penalty kill. If I do my pre-scout with my goaltender and he doesn't stop any pucks, what happens is the players have amnesia. After the game's done, I don't care about it. I'm going for a drink. I'm going to go for dinner. The coach has to stay and answer to the owner and has to answer to the fans, everybody. So now all of a sudden you're cutting video and it's 1 o'clock in the morning and you've been there since 6 a.m. and the boys are having beers. They don't remember the game. The game's over. And so you feel like a parent, you could set your child up to go do whatever. And then they just go and either have a great game or screw it up. You feel so helpless because you're just watching from the outside. So that was the coaching side. As far as being an analyst in hockey, like the comparison, it's more you control what comes out of your mouth. Like that's the biggest thing. I always say, like my wife will say, well, how's the broadcast? I'm like, I think I did good. Like as long as I didn't swear on air, I think I'm fine. Like, you know, but for the most part, you live like that's the broadcasting side. I've always felt like you live with what comes out of your mouth. If you say something that maybe either crosses a line or maybe upsets a player or something, you walk into the room the next day and you deal with it. You know, for the most part, the way I always present my analysis is honesty with respect. You know, if we as athletes, you guys would know, we're our own worst critics. So if I allowed a goal, I knew how I screwed up. I didn't need a guy on TV telling me how I screwed up. But in the end, it's his job to go, this is what happened. So as long as you don't make it personal, as long as you show respect, that's kind of been my formula. And I think it's going all right 14 years later. So that's kind of been the difference of the two.
I really appreciate the fact that you said, you know, respect with honesty. And I think that's really lacking a lot of times when it comes to a lot of this, we'll call it the new era of internet and just anybody be able to get behind a mic and kind of give their opinion. And I'm curious to know where you kind of stand on the whole, kind of what we do to a certain extent, where you guys are still considered the traditional golden age of media and everything else that's coming up. And there's got to be a bridge at some point that's going to tie those two together. But curious to know where you stand on it.
Well, I think the biggest thing is I've learned, again, keep in mind from the end of my career to now, even like these things weren't around, you know, cell phones and, you know, in 2004, when I'm playing in Calgary and I'm at Cowboys and, you know, one of my teammates has no shirt on behind the bar, you're like, okay, things look a little bit different. Like you can imagine somebody doing that, you know, Winnipeg Jet, Nikolai Ehlers behind the bar, you know, tarps off, having a great time. People still want to do that, but in the end, now camera phones, it's 1,000 words for one picture. So I think nowadays I've learned the online, everything comes in 15 to 30-second bursts, right? So I even do it on my shows where you'll say something and, you know, it's not clickbait, but it's the title of it. Mclennan says this, and you're like, okay, I said that, but like, where's the context to it? So people will have to watch that clip to understand how I got to that point. So I feel like, yes, they are merging because traditional media, which I am in TSN compared to podcasts and other things where, you know, I laugh about it because if you know me naturally, and even ask my kids or my wife who, you know, I swear, I talk like I'm in the dressing room. I always have, but you know, you have to adjust in life to anything. So, you know, there's times where you feel something coming out of your mouth and you go, okay, I got to pivot to this direction just because it's, you know, I'm on TV. I'm not in a bar, or I'm not in a scenario where I feel comfortable enough to drop an F-bomb or something like that. So I think that's where eventually maybe everything's coming together. We joke on my show Overdrive that they've, you know, we're now live on YouTube. I was like, okay, can we swear now? You know, because YouTube is like, you know, free for all.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, but then our boss would charge the mound and go, what are you guys doing? You're still on regular TV type of thing. So it's, I think I do believe that everything is kind of migrating together. It just depends on, you know, how you want to approach the information process.
I look in your background there, and I see over your right shoulder and a classic. I think it might be Grant Fuhr over your right shoulder, and then yourself over the left as well. And I'm curious to know, as a St. Albert boy, having the Saints as your junior team and the Edmonton Oilers probably being on most of the walls, what was it like throwing on that Flames jersey for the first time?
You know what's funny? I was telling a story today. So I grew up in Edmonton, and it's kind of embarrassing to say because this was I was born in 71, the 80s. Like, I'm a teenager and they're winning cups, and it's Gretzky and Messi. Like, this is prime dynasty. And I was a fan of Grant Fuhr. I was a fan of Eddie Mio. Like, I loved goaltender. I liked Mike Liut. Like, I loved players, but I didn't love a team. So it was weird. Like, my buddies would go to the Stanley Cup parade, and I was like, I'll just go next year, because you just felt like that's what's going to happen every year of your life. I live in Toronto. They're dying. Like, we were telling a story today. I'm like, God, like, in people's lifetimes, they haven't experienced like deep runs. And I'm sitting there as a 12-year-old, like, almost like, I don't know if you saw online that kid that lived in Boston who was like, okay, I saw the Patriots win. I've seen the Red Sox. I've seen the Bruins. You know, you've seen basically everything. And, you know, so growing up there, I did have, it's funny, this picture, this is Grant Fuhr. I won the Dairy Queen shootout.
Wow.
So I was 12 years old, and you would face shots, you'd face breakaways in between periods, and I made it to the finals and won. So the first playoff game of that season, Andy Moog started. So Furzy came out after the first period, took a picture with me. I was 12. He was like, early 20s, and he signed it, best of luck to Grant Fuhr. Fast forward 14 years, I'm 26 years old. I'm backing Furzy up in St. Louis. They run this on the front cover of the Edmonton Sun as we're, St. Louis, Edmonton. Him and I are having breakfast at the Fairmont Hotel, and there it is, the front cover of the Edmonton Sun, a picture. The editor had gotten a picture from my mom or something of Furzy. So he was always a favorite of mine, but I wasn't like per se an Oiler fan. And keep in mind, I played junior in Lethbridge, so I've got Alberta covered, right? So I go from Edmonton to Lethbridge to the Flames. So pretty much I had buddies that moved from Lethbridge to Calgary. I had people from Edmonton that moved to Calgary. Everyone's transient. So I pretty much, that's why I just call myself an Alberta boy. So it was pretty cool to put the jersey on because I was friends with Jerome as well. So I knew Jerome before I actually played with the Flames. So that was kind of neat to get to the Flames organization and have a buddy right away on the team.
Well, I know Trav is going to bombard you with a lot of career questions, but before we do, there's a question that we ask across the board when it comes to NHL players. Curious to know, you get that first check, that first NHL check in your hand. What do you do with it? What do you spend it on?
Well, it's funny. It wasn't even my first, it was my first bonus check. So keep in mind, like, again, I'm I think my first NHL contract, I made 140 up, 28.5 in the minors, but I signed for 75. So, you get a check. I think that 75 grand was broken up to 50 and 25. So I got a $50,000 check, and I was 19, 20.
God,
so
that's dangerous.
Well, keep in mind, I'm thinking I'm walking out of the bank with 50, or, I open it up, it's 32,000. So I'm like, well, where's 18 grand? Oh, what's this FICA and what's this tax and all of that? But I marched into the bank like I own that bank. And of course, like, I'll never forget this. There was like 3 tellers there. And I'm like, there's a really good looking one. I'll wait for that one because I want to put it down and, in front of her. So I chatted it up, put it in, deposited it. And of course, I made the stupid mistake of buying a Nissan 300 ZX back in the day for, whatever it was, 15 grand. You have to pay your agent fees and all that. I drove it for maybe a year or two, and I ended up, because it was kind of a collector's item, I actually sold it for more than I paid for it, which is insane for cars, right?
No kidding.
But you know what? That was kind of my vanity, purchase or whatever.
Good.
And I learned a lot of hard lessons. I'm a big finance guy. I love I've learned along the way, obviously taken a lot, some lumps with investments, done well with some, but I advise for venture capital groups right now. I'm really passionate about that. In another life, and might be my third career, that's what it will be, because I'm an investor in right now 21 startup companies, and just like I love that stuff. But believe me, I've learned the hard way. Along the way.
So what does Jamie Mclennan now go back and tell little 19-year-old Noodles about buying that Nissan? Good investment or bad investment? Thumbs up, thumbs down.
Bad investment for sure. I would like, I wish that, you wish you knew stocks back then, right? You could buy Apple and, some of the ones that have gone through the roof a million times. But I think my biggest advice would be and nowadays, guys who get big checks, they've got so much more resources. Like, I'm a kid from St. Albert. My dad worked for a mechanical and electrical company. So there wasn't there wasn't a financial guy that could give you good advice. There wasn't, an agent going, do this and that. It was just, hey, you're on your own. Here's a check. Good luck. So you're kind of learning on nowadays. Guys are coming out of junior, that there's a whole package available to them. There are resources. So, and it's a lot bigger money nowadays. It's a bigger money game. But for me, the younger Jamie, I would say, invest it wisely in real estate and stuff like that, where you feel like you can watch it grow over time.
This isn't a financial advice podcast. What do you think of Bitcoin?
Well, I have some.
Yeah. Okay. So that makes two of us then. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, it's funny because I'm quite conservative on one side. And I remember having a deeper discussion with my financial guy, who's a good friend of mine. Like, he's unbelievable, but he's and his office is a niche office, but then they've got lots of great people there. But they're a private company, and he didn't. I remember him. Like, I remember telling him, like, I want to get involved in this Bitcoin, and he's like, yeah, no, he said, let's like it's too, at that point it was too risky. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to buy it with my account, not on your account. So I went down that road, but I still bug him to this day, because I was talking, I said, can you just buy me like 5 to 10 of them? And they were at that time, I think 2,800 to 3,500. And now what is it at? 130,000 share or whatever per. So I tease them that, we could have got into it, but in the end, it's still risky, but I do have some, put it that way. I do have, I'm exposed on that side a little bit.
Super early on too. I mean, if you've been investing in Bitcoin, dude, the last month has been good. The previous 3 were terrible, but this month has been really, really, really good.
Oh yeah, you track it. I try not to track things daily, because you live it. Like, it's like the emotion. It's like winning and losing that day. You look at it and go, oh, up or down or whatever. I feel like anything is a gradual build. You just got to be patient with it. But I did expose myself, Bitcoin, Ethereum, or those are the two major ones that I got involved in, and you can buy portions of it as well on the Canadian side. So I did that too.
And this episode is awesome, but it would be a lot better if you could hear it with crystal clear audio, which is why JLab is the presenting sponsor for this show and the presenting sponsor for this episode. Crystal clear audio. We're talking their sport wireless earbud. Whether you're looking for something for training, you're looking for something at the gym, JLab has it all. With the sport earbuds, we're talking 20 hours of Bluetooth playback. They're sweat proof. They have a no slip strip, so they grip on nicely, and noise canceling for crystal clear calls. The over-the-ear headphones have 40-plus hours of active noise canceling, 70 hours of audio playback without the active noise canceling on. And what are you waiting for? Right now, go to the link in the description. Use our code. You're going to get yourself 10% off an amazing set of headphones or earbuds from JLab.
It's like you were in my head this entire time. That sounded fantastic. Thank you, JLabs.
Back to the show.
Let's talk about that for a second, transition back into the game, because I think you did a really good job investing in yourself, because you've already mentioned a couple of big names in Grant Fuhr, a guy you backed up in St. Louis. You had Luongo, you had Kiprusoff, but it was never you being undershadowed by those guys. Jamie Mclennan's name was still alongside those guys, and I'm curious to know how you handled being teammates with those guys.
I think the biggest thing, probably, the turning point that maybe helped me with some longevity was, I think when you identify what you are, because, growing up, everybody who's made the NHL was probably the top dog at some point in their home city, in their junior team, you name it, right? But once you get to the NHL sorts you out. So you fall into these buckets. And what happens, and I've seen it with so many players, is they're not realistic to what they are. And by the time they realize, hey, I'm a fourth line winger, hey, I'm a seventh defenseman, if they don't realize it quick enough, they haven't maximized it, they get flushed out, because in their mind they cause some waves and go, you know what, if I which I was a starting goaltender in junior, early on they gave me an opportunity to be a starter, and then I want to say it, like, I failed to be a starter. But then, okay, if you're not going to be a starter, how about be a really good number two? And that's about 26 or 27 years old. There was a time where St. Louis kind of gave me the keys to the car. Fierzy had a knee injury. I played 10 games in a row, and I was just okay. Like, I didn't get to that level where I separated myself as like a clear one. So I remember saying to myself, if you're not a clear one, you better be a damn good two and bring something else to the table. And I think that self-awareness, it actually helped longevity for me, because I wasn't, if I'm playing with Kiprusoff, like, they'll take 70% of Kiprusoff any night instead of 100% of Jamie Mclennan. He just was a superior goaltender to me. But what I did is, my job was, when Kipper needed a night off, it just wasn't to go in there and just give him a night off. I had to win games. I had to be a good soldier. And those starts, whether it was 2 weeks in between or 6 weeks in between, there was no excuses. Like, there's no like, hey, I'm rusty. You don't get to go on the microphone before the game and go to everybody, hey, just so you know, I haven't played in four weeks. So if I allow the first shot, just bear with me, type of thing. You got to play. And I think that's the one thing I took so much pride in, is it didn't matter if I didn't play in 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 5 weeks or whatever. You felt like you had to be sharp. So I think that was the biggest thing, is identifying, like, I wasn't disruptive. Like, if anything, those guys liked playing with me. It's not that they didn't feel like I wasn't a threat to them. I certainly wasn't a threat. They were more talented than me, but I knew my spot and I pushed them. And I wanted to be a good partner. I remember saying to Manny Fernandez in Minnesota, I said, we're the only two goalies in here. Like, everybody else is against us technically. Like, shut up and stop the puck. So it's for me, I'm saying, like, Manny, you're my partner, and yes, we're battling for ice time, but I got your back. You should have mine. And it doesn't mean that, when you're in the net, like, yeah, I want to be in there, but I want you to be your best, because I'm going to try and be my best. So it was like a healthy competition. But when I was a clear-cut number two, I wanted Louis to be at his best. I wanted Kiprusoff to be at his best, Roman Turek, Grant Fuhr. And I felt pride in it, because I felt like I was their eyes and ears from the bench. So that was it's a long-winded answer, but that's kind of how I was able to be a really good two and kind of hang around for probably longer than I should have, put it that way.
I don't think you're giving yourself enough credit.
Well, I don't know. I mean, there were nights where I was like, God, I don't know if I should be in this league anymore. But you know what? There were times where you're like, I never felt comfortable. Even 10, 12 years in, you just was like, you always felt there was a kid coming for you, right? Which there is, but you knew you were an NHLer. You just didn't know, how it was like. It's like you're on a ride and you just don't know when the ride's going to end. So you're just maximizing it. And so there was always a lot of anxiety and nerves for me. But it doesn't mean I didn't enjoy myself. I certainly enjoyed myself along the way.
Okay, well, based on that, under the old adage of I'd rather break up with her than her breaking up with me, if you felt like the other shoe was going to drop, let's talk about the suspension. Because as Travis said off the top, you're, as far as I know,
still
serving an active suspension in the National Hockey League. Walk me through that one.
Well, okay, so it's actually not as sexy of a story as, it's
the headline looks great, though, Jamie.
Oh, listen, you look it up on YouTube now. It's like Mclennan goes crazy, or, cheap shot on Franson and all that. I'm like, okay. So really the context of it is we're playing Detroit. Kiprusoff is Kiprusoff, the Vezina winner, the best goaltender, in my opinion, in the league. And Detroit has Holmstrom. They got Franzen. They got guys crashing the net, accidentally on purpose, falling on him, jamming away at it. And you're watching it build over the series. And Kipper, I'll tell you, Kipper is, for me, arguably one of the best goaltenders I've ever seen. He just had all the tools, but he had the durability. Like, he was 6'1", maybe 183, 185 pounds, skinny fat guy, but like, he just literally played every night. And it's not like you see guys now, they get banged up and stuff. Like, I knew there were times he was banged up. It's like, he's playing. It doesn't matter. This guy just plays. So I watched it build over the series. So this is game 5. It's an afternoon game in Detroit, and they're taking it to us. I think the score is like 5-1 or something like that. This was never premeditated, but in that particular game, it was getting very chippy, to the point where, like, Aginla was chasing Matthew Schneider around. A guy named Brett Lepta had kind of taken out Damon Lankow's knee. And so Lankow butt-ended him. Like, it was really greasy from both sides. Like, so they're getting to Kipper, and they're hitting him and banging on him and just chipping away at him. And I remember thinking to myself, in that particular afternoon, if I get thrown in, I'm going to try and start a line brawl. Because that would maybe open it up, that our guys could get after them. And you try and get underneath the skin of a very, disciplined Detroit team. Like, those guys were like a well-oiled machine, right? So I get thrown in, I think they score the 5th goal or something like that. And Jimmy Playford just looks at me and he goes, "Noodles, go in." And I think it's like 5.5 minutes left in the game. I'm just going in to mop it up. And right away, I'm thinking, okay, this is my opportunity. I'm going to try and, start something so the guys can, they can kind of have a little bit of free-for-all. And so Franzen gets in front of the net. I give him a couple chops, and I can hear the ref going, Noodles, knock it off. I give him a few chops. I see his arm go up. So I'm getting a penalty for slashing. The puck gets dumped around, and I go to touch it behind the net. The whistle blows, and Franzen starts skating towards me. And I think, okay, this guy's 240 pounds. His nickname's the Mule. Like, I should still be laying there if he wanted to dust me. Like, I'm not lying. Like, he's a big guy. So he's skating towards me, and I chop him. And I think that he's going to sucker me. And here it is. Here's the Donnybrook. And I chop him, and I'm not lying. I hit him on the right pant. I didn't hit him in the midsection like people thought I did. And I didn't hit him in the face or whatever, but I did. I gave him a good chop, and optically it looked awful. Keep in mind, this is a national TV game in the U.S. Bettman's trying to sell the league, and you get a backup goaltender comes in for 18 seconds and chops, a really good player for the Detroit Red Wings. So instead, I'm thinking he's going to sucker me and all hell's breaking loose. I surprise him. He just drops. It's like I cut him in half. And I'm not lying. My heart rate's not even 80. Like, I'm not even breathing heavy. I'm just getting into the game. And right away, like, everyone goes nuts. I get skated off, and I'm out of the game. I'm 18. Kipper's he's not even taking his mask off. He's coming back in. And I go into the dressing room, and I'm like, well, that didn't go the way I envisioned it, right? Like, I'm like, this is awful. And of course, optically, it's just so embarrassing. Like, to a point, like, I go back and look at it, like, I cringe because it's not my nature. Like, yes, I joke that, my buddies and I, when you're younger, you fight in the bars, you do stupid things. This was a stupid thing that I was trying to accomplish, and I blew it. So I hit him, he drops, and we lose the game. We fly right back to Calgary. Now, the crazy part is it was a back-to-back game. Detroit was in our division, and we're playing Saturday, Sunday night in Calgary. So as we get off the plane, Daryl goes, "Hey, be at the rink early tomorrow. You've got a hearing." And I'm like, all right. So I don't sleep that well that night. I'm like, God, I wonder if I'm going to get a game or something, And so I go in that morning, and, my agent's on the call, the PA's on the call, all of that. And he just, like, Coley Campbell's kind of giving me heck. And Daryl told me, he goes, let me do the speaking. So Daryl starts yelling at them. You're wasting my time. And that's a 2-minute penalty. What are you guys doing? He's obviously trying to defend me. So we go through the hearing. I tell them what I said. I said, you know what? I was trying to start a fight. I didn't hit him hard, all of that. I go into the lounge, and a couple hours, maybe an hour later, Rich Preston, our assistant coach, comes out and he goes, you got 5 games. And I was like, what? And of course, like, the optics of it were terrible. Like I say, it was a national televised game. It's a backup goalie, a non-factor in the series whatsoever. It looked bad. I think there was other things they could have done. Like, Iginla was chasing, like, there could have been a combination of a bunch of things, but they're like, give it to the non-consequential guy, which is fair. But it was like $150,000 fine for the team and our coach, Jimmy. They thought Jimmy Playfair sent me in there, which he didn't. I think he got a $25,000 fine. I lost my playoff track. And here's the crazy part out of all of this, to put a bow on it. Johan Franzen scores the game-winning goal the next night, of course, right? So I served the 1 game, and then that summer I got offered a few NHL deals, but I was going to pack it in anyways, and then I ended up going to Russia and Japan. So the NHL, I owe them 4 games, and I think 150 grand or whatever. They're never going to get it out of me. I mean, I can barely touch my toes now, so I don't think I'll ever be able to put the pads on and play an NHL game again. So that's kind of the long-winded story, but that's my version of it. And I'll tell you one last thing.
So your intentions were good.
My intentions were good. It was a stupid play. I grew up with, like, Chris Osgood's dad was my principal in St. Albert. Ozzy lived in Medicine Hat. Mm-hmm. I sent a note over after the game saying, like, I'm sorry. I don't even know if people got it. But a couple of years later, I ran into Franzen, and I had a conversation with him and apologized to him. And then I also ran into him when I was doing color, and he was still playing in Detroit. And we had a long chat again. Nice enough, nice guy or whatever. And I asked him, I said, like, he asked me, what were you thinking? I told him, and I said, well, what did you? And he goes, Jamie, it didn't hurt, but it surprised me. And I was like, yeah, of course it surprised you. Like, nobody thought I would be chopping you. So anyways, that's the...
I thought you said that was a boring story. That was great.
Well, it's kind of, I don't know. It's more disappointing because I got to, the internet's forever. I got to live with that. Like, my son's going to discover it at some point and be like, Daddy, what are we doing here? So anyways, it is what it is.
Hey, Jamie, biggest 3 lies in pro hockey. Checks in the mail. You're only going down for 2 weeks, and the third we can't say publicly on the show, but...
I know these lies.
You know the third one?
You'll have to text it to me.
I'll text it to you after. You won't be disappointed. I have to ask, you mentioned the Flames happily taking 70% of Kipper over 100% of you. Just hearing stories, and I mean, this was a guy, like, when I was a kid growing up, posters and posters of Kiprusoff on my wall, posters and posters of Jose Theodore, like my childhood idol.
Yeah.
And to hear the stories of how this guy could drink with the best of them, and he would show up day in, day out for morning skate, for the game days, and he would never miss a beat. Well, is that basically what your experience was like?
Yeah, I mean, it's not like, you're not wrong, but he wasn't a guy that was like, hey, every night I got to go do this. Like, it's actually the opposite. He's a recluse, even to this day. Like, I'm if people need to get a hold of Kipper, like, they'll call me and be like, because Kipper flushes everybody. Like, it's weird. But we chat every couple months. We have a little WhatsApp, and he'll send me funny things, or I'll send him funny things. But he's just, if you know Kipper, everything he does, it's just quiet. Like, even his retirement, he just, like, wanted to disappear. Like, we had to bring him back to retire his number last year. I'm not lying. The Flames were terrified that he wasn't going to show up. Like, I remember, because Peter Hanlon, their PR guy, is literally my best friend. And Peter was like, they were afraid that he wasn't going to get on the plane, because it's like it would be the ultimate Kipper joke is they're going to retire his jersey and he doesn't show up. But he was a guy. He wasn't a guy that would go out and, booze and do it every night, but he could do it. Like, if he was out and, I'd go out, like, I was back then, we enjoyed ourselves. So you go out, you're drinking, you're smoking, you're doing whatever, but you come to work the next day. Like, that's the difference now. I think, guys, the game is so fast that you can't hide certain things.
Well,
but I look at it.
The players have changed. The generations have changed. And I mean, I won't get into the minutia of why I think that's happened, but I've told Travis before, being from, you and I being both Gen Xers, the 90s, we had all of the fun and none of the evidence.
Right. And that's what I kind of alluded to, our 04 run in Calgary there. Like, we had a very tight team. I was telling somebody yesterday, like, the difference in how a team gets tighter is, we didn't have the nutritionist handing us a shake as we come off the ice. You didn't have, your meal, your pregame meal for you at the rink, and you just take it home with you. It's like, guys, what are we doing for lunch today? What are we doing and then lunch turns into dinner, and it's a couple beers, and we'll go for a movie, or maybe some of the married guys come and join us. So, you play Tuesday and then you don't play till Saturday. So Wednesday, you maybe get the day off. So it's, you hang out, you go for beers and stuff. So in the end, like, you have a group that all hangs out together. So that's how you get tighter. And I remember, I'll never forget this. I remember being on team. You got 23 guys. We had a Christmas party. 19 of them showed up at my house at like 6:00 at night. The party was at 10, but it's like, everyone's got to be there for the pre-drinks. And we had an after party before we went to the bar. It was insane. Like, but that's how tight our group was. And you had married guys floating in and out because they had, family in and stuff. So like, I'll come for a couple, and then all of a sudden, they're leading the charge because it's Frank the Tank type of thing. So it's, it's,
and you're right, because the difference is now, and I'm not going to say where I heard this, but I heard actually on a scouting report that these two players could play well together because they play on the same team in Call of Duty, and that's actually things they're looking at now, because that's kind of more the camaraderie of these guys after and before games.
It is true now. I've even heard stories, and obviously doing color and stuff, where guys, and the money's different now, so they bring their little gaming packs, and instead of packing a TV, they'll like have one delivered from Best Buy to their hotel room, and then they'll just leave it there. Mm-hmm. So what the hell's $300 to them, a guy who makes $8 million, right? Mm-hmm. So they have a giant screen, they'll set it up, and the boys come in and play or whatever. I'm not wired that way. Again, I didn't grow up in that era, which, that screen and spending $300 was going a lot different in a lot different directions.
Sure.
in my area.
Mm-hmm.
My era, it's like, hey, we're in Winnipeg, let's find the Earls, like, let's chip away and have a great night type of thing. And so it's just, life is different. I don't begrudge these guys because of social media, because of how life has changed. It's just different. So I always try and I have to take a step back sometimes and try and look at it through the lens of today, as opposed to, well, when I played. Well, yes, everything was different when I played, but we certainly had fun, and we knew when to come to play. And to be honest, we joke about it. I can only say that I played maybe guilty, I think, twice in my whole life. And those were accidentals, where I was backing up one time and I got tossed in LA. I could still taste whiskey on my breath, and I was like, this is not going to go well. But, in the end, if you do the things the right way, the hockey gods will help you out, and they helped me out that particular night, put it that way.
It was a different era, Jamie. It was a different era.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So funny.
Our time is short here, Travis. You got anything else?
No, I just texted my buddy, so I've got more time for you if you want to extend.
Done and done. I got more here for you.
Okay.
I'd be remiss if I didn't ask. There's a story that Dave's told many times in the show about Miikka Kiprusoff and Chad Kroeger. It's gone viral every single time we posted the clip, but the number one comment on those clips is that you're wrong. It's not Kiprusoff and Kroeger, it's Mclennan and Kroeger. Is this true?
Well, okay, so full disclosure, Chad's one of my best friends. So, I mean...
Tell him he still owes me $20.
Okay, fair. So Chad is... we've been very close for like 20 years now, and
good Alberta boy, by the way, Hannah, Alberta.
Yes, good Hannah boy. It doesn't even stem from that. That's the crazy thing. So I put them on my mask. I don't know if I've got it here. No, I got it downstairs. But I used to be a big Kiss fan. I loved Kiss. So I always had Kiss on my masks. And then I met Gene Simmons, and it was a nightmare because you're not supposed to meet people that you idolize. And Gene was a mess. He was hitting on my girlfriend. It was a gong show. And he gave me, I wrote a book, and I think I told the story in my book about it, where he gave me a potato salad sandwich handshake. I walked in, I was playing for the Florida Panthers, and I met this race car driver named Dan Weldon, who passed away. And so he came on the ice and shot pucks on me because he had like a reality show back then. And he goes, "Oh, I've got time trials tomorrow. I see you've got Kiss on your mask. I can introduce you to Gene. He's the ambassador of the Indy 300 in Miami, Indy 500 everywhere else, but I think this was the Indy 300 in Miami." So I go down the next day and I go, "Well, I'd like to meet Gene. I want to meet Danica Patrick. Those are the two things I wanted to do." So he goes, "Done." I watch him race. He takes me over to the VIP tent. I'm dating a girl at the time. She comes with me, and we walk in, and it's literally just my PR guy, my girlfriend at the time, and myself, and then Gene Simmons and his handler. They're at a buffet line, like they're at the buffet across the room. So as we're walking towards him, like I'm 6 feet tall, he's like he's a big dude. He's like 6'4", 6'5". But I'm walking towards him. He's at the buffet. I turn around, and he's eating like this egg salad sandwich, and it's all over his face. And it's like, I'm like, okay, this is weird. So my handler, my PR guy, introduces to him, "This is Jamie Mclennan. He has Kiss on his mask, blah, blah, blah." And he looks at me, and he puts a sandwich down, wipes his face, and then shakes my hand. And it's like,
and then Jamie scrapes off the egg salad into a
literally like egg salad, like squashed in. So no problem. I'm like, okay, I can eat that one. But he looks at my girlfriend, takes her glasses off, puts them on his head, puts them back on hers. There's egg salad on one of the lenses. Okay. Spins her around, takes like a couple looks, and then just walks away and goes, "Pleasure to meet you," and walks away. I was like, what is going on with this guy? So the next day I go back to my trainer and I go, we got to put a different band. Like, we got to get some Nickelback on, like stuff like that. So I put Nickelback on my mask, and I had them. It was even in Calgary. Chad and the guys were watching Hockey Night in Canada, and they saw Nickelback on the mask. They had their PR person call our PR person, and I ended up meeting them. And Chad and I went out one night, and we hit it off, and we've been friends ever since, to the point where, I was at his 50th birthday in November. I flew out for it. Like we FaceTime a lot. Like, we're very close, and I love the guy. I've always been a Nickelback fan. I think he's a brilliant songwriter.
Always has been.
You know what the weird thing is, and I would only say this, like, I tell people this all the time. There's public perception and private perception, and sometimes they don't match. With Chad, I don't know if you saw their Netflix special, Love to Hate Nickelback.
Yep.
It shows behind the scenes of them. They're good guys. They're kind guys. They're generous. So I've got a lot of time for Chad. So yes, Kipper has been to Chad's house. The helicopter, all of that type of stuff. There was, all hell was breaking loose. Put it that way. Let's.
You know what? Listen, that's the same response I got from Mike Keane once upon a time, where we asked him, saying, "We heard a rumor once upon a time that the Stanley Cup was dented at a pool party at your house," and he said, "Even if that story was true, I wouldn't tell you." So I'll take.
I think it was dented at Pantera's, wasn't it? Like, because I've heard that story where, somebody tossed it out from the second floor, tried to hit the pool, and it hit the deck of the pool and then went into the pool. I played with Roman Turek, who was at that party, and like, it's funny. Like, the stories are great. And with Chad, there's a million of them, and he's not shy to talk about them, but I'm like, dude, like, you have to be mindful, because I'm like, you make sure that people who are involved, they're fine with the stories, because I'm fine with it, because I was single at the time or whatever, so I can, Chad's been, he's single, not he has a girlfriend, but he's been single. He's 50 years old, you know what I mean? So, and he's a rock star. He does whatever he wants.
Well, and you took the words right out of my mouth, because then this is why everyone came to me, because I've been working in radio now for 27 years and people go, oh, Nickelback. I'm like, listen, Chad came right out and said, I want to be rich and I want to be a rock star. How do you fault him for succeeding on the goals that he wanted? Like, how do you fault the guy? I give him all the credit in the world.
And the thing is too, is you don't make, like, even in the documentary, he goes like, I make songs for Nickelback fans. Like, he goes, there's people that love us. He goes, I make good spaghetti, but people might not like my spaghetti. He goes, I'm not going to try and impress them by doing it. He makes no apologies. I just think that the hardest part, and I've been out with him, I mean, 100 times, maybe more. Like, and the thing that always makes me sad in the sense is, nowadays, people are such idiots. People want to click or something. They'll walk up to you like, you suck, you this. And Chad is so gracious. He's usually like, well, hey, that's your opinion. My opinion is this. I'm good. Like, he's really good at spinning out of it. And for the most part, people are very, like, if you look at a percentage, I would say 95% of people are so good to him and say, love your music. Can I get a picture? But it's the 5% are the idiots, and that's anything in this world. So you can't please everybody.
And you can speak on this more than I can, but I think Ryan Peake, for those that don't know, has been a great Robin to his Batman in that whole relationship.
Yeah, Ryan, him and Trina, they're very based, right? So him and his wife, they've got Obaka, that charity. They literally want to save the world. And his brother Mike is a UFC guy, and Daniel Adair flies planes. Like, they're an amazing group together. Mm-hmm. I went and saw them in February as we went on a boys trip during that Four Nations Cup or Four Nations Face Off. They were playing the opening night of Waste Management in Phoenix. Mm-hmm. So we did that. We did the opening night there with Chad, and then the Saturday we did Waste Management. Then Sunday was Super Bowl. So I barely got on the plane the Monday morning, but it was a good weekend to catch up. But yeah, you know what? Like, there's so many funny Kipper stories, but it's not even involved in drinking. It's more of just involved in, like, how funny his personality was. So I'll give you an example. Like, he's super flexible. Like, so I remember one time we were going to get into a restaurant or a bar or whatever, and the guy didn't believe it was Kiprusoff. And I go, well, back then you could Google. I think Google was around. I'm like, Google him. And Kipper just goes, he put his leg above his head on the wall and was like, I can't remember how he did it, but he just did a splits on the wall and was like, I go, see, look, he's flexible goaltender, let us in type of thing. And the guy, like, let us in. It's stuff like that. Like, I miss, people always ask me, like, what do you miss, with the game or whatever? Yes, you miss a paycheck, you miss all of that, but I miss the camaraderie. I miss the guys in the room. I miss, obviously the competition, but everything that comes with it was amazing, joking with the guys and teasing each other and making fun of each other. And, it's like a family. You're in a room, and I miss that. And it's just weird now that we're all getting older, because you see somebody and they don't look like you remember them, right? They lost hair, or they're fat, or, all of that type of stuff. So it's pretty good. We have a group chat. I saw the Memorial Cup, and Iggy was doing something, and, like, Iggy's funny. I said, we have this group chat, and I took a picture of it, and he's gotten thinner. Like, Iggy's super jacked, but I'm like, you look like a 175-pound power forward now. Like, what's going on? He's like, no, I'm 205. And so the chirping's still there, but as we get older, but it's just a different type of chirping now.
That's good to hear.
And if I could say too, like, on the Nickelback front, I've never seen anybody talk about this publicly, but, like, both Chad and Ryan, like, probably some of the most underrated funny guys out there. Like, the one-liners, just how they subtly get them in. Like, I'd never seen anybody talk about how funny they are. They're hilarious.
You know what? Chad is he's very entertaining person, and he's very engaging. So you're out at dinner, go to his place in Cabo or whatever, you're sitting in Nobu, and like, people come by. He's engaging for everybody, but he's so quick-witted, and so is Ryan. And they're they're entertainers, but they're not trying to be. It's just Chad can command a room just sitting having dinner and telling stories and stuff, and he's so funny. And the one thing about him that is probably different from some of the people that I know and hang out with is he doesn't have a filter, and he doesn't have to. Like, rock stars can be like that.
They can have egg salad sandwich on their hand and shake people's hands.
They can do whatever they want. Like, it just, I know that still haunts me, the Gene thing. and fast forward years later, a buddy of mine gets married in LA, and he's quite a wealthy guy, and Gene Simmons is at the wedding. And I'm like staring at him. So my buddy makes me take a picture with him. He will not take a normal picture. As they were about to take the picture, he grabbed my face. So the picture is me with my arm around Gene Simmons, and he's got my face in some camel clutch. I'm like, what is going on? It is insane. Like, he must hate my guts. I don't know, but it's just the funniest, weirdest picture because he's got my face, like he's squeezing my face. Like, I don't know why he's doing that.
So listen, Jamie, from your perspective, I can understand where you're coming from, but as a guy who's never met Gene Simmons, I think that's Gene Simmons.
It is just weird. Like, I've always loved Kiss. Like, even, my buddies were like Kiss Army guys growing up and all that. So I've seen him a million times, and obviously met Gene a few times, and we met Peter Criss and Ace Frehley when they broke off and they were doing like the Cowboys tour back in the day. Yeah. But unique guys, put it that way.
Masked or unmasked?
So I've seen Kiss both, and then certainly like Peter Criss and Ace Frehley, like they're pretty grizzled. Like they're playing Cowboys Edmonton. There was no makeup on or anything, and Ace
we call them ugly face.
Oh, there was some ugly face there. That's their nickname for sure. But yeah, it was still great to see him. But it was unmasked back then.
I don't know if you have to be good looking, man. Look at Danny DeVito. Danny DeVito gets laid. There's hope.
Rhea Perlman, God love her. By the way, R.I.P. George Wendt. Wow. And listen, Jamie, I think you could write a book just based on everything that we talked about over the past hour here. So I want to, once again, thank you for taking the time. We really appreciate it. That style up there, you always asked about the style. Jamie Mclennan does not get enough credit for his style when he was on the ice.
Are those 5500s or are those Legacy that I'm seeing in the background?
What do we have
Maybe
here?
V2. V2s?
Yeah, they're, you know what? I wish I wasn't hardwired. I'd walk you down to my, I've got I have like a trophy room, or not a trophy room, a jersey room, and I have my pads and from each team and my jerseys and stuff. But I'm hardwired to this computer.
Real quick, what's your favorite setup you ever had? I know we just recapped the show, but what's your favorite setup you ever had in your career?
Vaughn Legacy's, like I was a Vaughn guy. I was Vaughn Legacy, but I used Billy Ranford's specs. So back in the day, before they started measuring, it was 12-inch knees that went to 14 at the boot. So they were like, it was Billy Ranford and it was Mike Richter that would go really wide at the boot. So I was a Vaughn guy through and through, and lucky enough when you play in the league that you get all these reps that come, the Bauer guy, and you try this out. In my storage room, I literally have 30 pairs of pads that I don't know what I'm going to do with, but I have them down there, and maybe my son will use them or whatever. But nowadays the gear is so good. My son's a little 7-year-old goaltender, and he's wearing Warrior stuff, and it's so light, and you can put it on. There's 3 straps. Like I had toe straps. Mm-hmm. Nowadays they're like, I was talking to Linus Allmark, and I like, Linus, I had toe straps. He's like, that's insane. Like, why would you have toe straps? I'm like, because I had the boot right around my skate. Like, it was, I needed my pads tight. These guys wear them loose, and I didn't have a butterfly. I mean, I have Calvin Pickard's butterfly. I had the little V,
Jiggy fly.
But yeah, exactly. But it just, honestly, that was my favorite setup. Like, I liked a lot of the gear that I had. I always tried to match the colors and just try and look decent. The masks, I had a great painter, Frank Cipra, who was awesome. And he would, if I wanted Kiss or if I wanted, one time in St. Louis, I had the arch, but I had the 4 Kiss guys standing on top of the arch. It was pretty cool, and actually, no, that's not it. I have my
Egg salad sandwich on the back plate.
Yeah, I've got a St. Louis, this was the arch, but he had the Kiss heads on the side.
I remember that one. I specifically remember that one.
Yeah, it was good. Like, I've got some of my masks up here and some downstairs, but I don't keep a lot. I just have like little designated areas for them. But I was a bit of a gear junkie back then. I always thought the gear was cool to, you always wanted to look good, feel good,
How hard is it for you? I shouldn't say how hard is it. At what level are you at with your 7-year-old son with his goaltending? Are you kind of like jump stepping, going, or are you letting him do it on his own? Like where's that in between for you?
No, I'm actually the other way. So I live in the GTA, and there's some parents, like, it's crazy, hockey parents. Like they want their kids on the ice 6-7 times a week. And luckily, my son's on this little select team, and Mike Camilleri is the coach. And Cammy's like me. He's pretty laid back, and he's like, if my son wants to play hockey, great, I'll support him. But if he doesn't, then, I'm fine with it. Where you've got a lot of parents that are like, more. And Cammy's like, nope, these kids, like, during the season, we're going to do 4 times a week. They're going to play basketball because I want them to be athletes. I want them to be multi-sport.
Good.
There's no screaming at the kids or anything like that. And my son he loves it. Like, he's been, I told him, I said, buddy, you don't have to be a goalie because daddy was. But he's like, no, I want to be. And he's a tall kid for his age, and he's learning like power pushes and stuff. But he has a goalie coach, like the team has a goalie coach, and I've got to know him pretty well. And I put my headphones on and I sit in the corner. That's what my parents did that growing up. They used to sit in the corner of the rink. So I knew they were there. So I always tell them, my wife goes and sits with all the parents, and they're yelling and screaming and cheering and stuff. I sit with headphones on, and I either listen to music and I just watch. I don't do anything. I let them know. I'm like, buddy, I'm in the corner. I'm up there. And they had a tournament this year. It's kind of funny because their team was decent. So the first game, he was unbelievable. He got player of the game, and I was kind of proud. And he had a game a couple hours later, and he got absolutely rinsed. And he was so rattled. He gave up like 8 or 9 goals, and it was ugly. The team just got dummied. And he was so upset. And I remember saying to him, I said, like, there's, they're in the dressing room, and there's all these bricks. And I said, look at that line there. And I said, you see that line? And he goes, yeah. And I said, this morning you were above that line. You were up here, buddy. And I said, right now you're below that line. I said, always remember, don't get too high, don't get too low. I said, keep that line. And so the next morning they lost again, like 9-1. And I walked in to see him, and he was like pointing to that line. And I go, buddy, it's all that matters.
Mm-hmm.
As long as you were fine. Like, kids at that age, they want to hit McDonald's on the way home. They want an ice cream. They don't care. And that's the thing. I want my kid to want to play hockey, not because I'm not going to pressure him one bit.
Well, I'll mention another guy from our generation, Padraig Harrington, who's a major champion on the PGA Tour, who said once upon a time when it came to golf, he said, don't keep your kids out on the golf course to the point where they leave and they hate it. If they're getting tired of it, bring them into the clubhouse and let them have a Coca-Cola. Let them leave with good memories. Yeah,
it's smarter. Like I find nowadays, if you put too much mileage on them. Like I remember talking to a goaltender coach from Sweden, Thomas Magnusson.
The Godfather.
What's that? Yeah, the Godfather. Yeah. So Thomas, I was at the Goalie Guild, there was like 120 goalie coaches there. And I've talked to him, and he was saying there was 14 and 15-year-old kids that were having hip surgeries now because since they were 4 and 5 years old, everyone's doing power pushes. Everyone's doing wannabe Lundqvist. There's so much mileage on these kids because they're doing it year round, and it's so physical. And I was saying, well, what are you guys going to do about it? Well, they were almost having like a pitch count that these kids weren't able to do, you can do 20 power pushes a day, but you're not doing 1,000 like everyone's doing, and it's wearing these kids out. And you see nowadays, these kids that get to the NHL at 19 and 20, they've been doing it since they were 6 and 7, 365 days a year, and it's just their bodies like wear down. And so the mileage, it's like a Ferrari, but it's got 300,000 kilometers on it. So, there is, to me, I think moderation, I get it. You still have to work at your craft, but you have to work smart at it. That's kind of been my approach. And I don't know, again, my son, he's 7.
Yeah.
Like I always try and tell people he's 7, let him be 7.
And we're huge advocates of, cross training and making sure that kids get excited for September, get excited for October, be excited to get back on the ice. Don't get tired of it. Right. So I'm glad to hear you're an advocate of that as well.
Oh, 100%. Like no hockey in the summer. He's going to play soccer. He had soccer tonight. We go to Italy for 3 weeks every summer. So he's going to Italy and he's going to, eat gelato and pasta and pizza with me. We do it all the time. Like I'm a big Italy guy. I'm a creature of habit. Unfortunately, I think that comes back to my hockey days where it's like you do the same thing every day. Well, every summer we go to Italy. So it's kind of cool.
You goaltenders have always been weird.
We are weirdos. Yeah.
Is that a father-son trip?
No, it's a family trip. So when my wife and I first got together, I said, these are the things that I want. We do a boys trip every year. So I said, that's non-negotiable. You need to stay in touch with your buddies. I said, we need a couples trip and we have a family. We need a family trip. So what's happened here in the last couple of years is the family trip and the couples trip have been morphed together. So now the kids tag along because my wife and I would go to Italy every summer. We choose a different spot. And now the kids love it. So now we're going back this year to their favorite spots and then adding in a couple others. So it's for me, it's mandatory. I love going and having something to look forward to. We all work so hard in our lives. Like if you've got something to light at the end of the tunnel to look forward to, when you're struggling or you're tired, you go, okay, a month from now, I'm going to be sitting on a beach in Italy, having pizza or doing whatever. Like that's the way I look at it.
Well, do me a favor. Don't rush Jay Onrait when he's on set. I'd like to keep you around on that panel for as long as we possibly can.
Oh yeah, no, I mean Jay's a beauty. I love it. Although, yeah, like anything, you got to be careful when they're setting up because they're always rolling film. I remember sitting here like I've got a bunch of guitars at the house and I clank around with Chad a little bit here or there. And I was sitting with a guitar before we were about to, tape and they're lining everything up. But I was sitting it and he ran it on the show because it's like the outtakes. Mm-hmm. So you always have to, going on that show, you always have to be mindful. You have to be on your game because they'll just run anything. It's funny.
Mm-hmm. Well, say hi to Jay for me. He's been a dear friend for a long time. He really has. And yeah, man, I love seeing you on the panel. It brings a smile on my face every time. And you do a hell of a job, man. I really want to point that out.
Well, I appreciate it. Thanks, guys. And we'll do it again. We'll maybe double down and get I know I was babbling here for over an hour. So
no, please, dude, we loved it. It's awesome to hear.
I'm sure there's other things you want to get to, but let's follow up.
Next time you have to make a trip up to Peguis First Nation, just north of Winnipeg here. Make sure you come into Winnipeg and we'll have a beer at Earl's.
I absolutely.
At the new rekindle. At the new 300 main Earl's, the new watering hole.
What is it called?
Well, it's right across the street from the old one that was on Main Street. And so, yeah, it's in a new tower. You'll love it.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even if I call a game there next year too, right? Like if it's Ottawa, Winnipeg, I usually, slide in there, but we'll make something happen. Stay in touch and we'll do it again for sure. When you reach out anytime.
Close them out, Travis Ridgen.
Sounds like a plan. Let's get him in the studio. Well, everybody, thank you so much for listening to this episode of our summer interview series. This one with Jamie Mclennan. My name is Travis. That's Dave. We do new episodes every single Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 in the prairies here in Winnipeg, 9 in the foothills of Calgary, 8 on the Pacific Northwest. New episodes are on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. We'll see you next Sunday.